Dawson Hale had spent half his life chasing wild horses across the high country, but none ever mattered quite like the blue-roan stallion he'd named Ghostfall. The animal was fast as wind off a cliff and twice as unpredictable, a creature born of storms and silence. Dawson had roped him young, earned his respect the long way, with patience instead of pain. Folks said a Mustanger shouldn't get attached. But Mustangers didn't know Ghostfall. And Dawson? He didn't know how not to care. By late summer the desert smelled of dust and juniper. Heat shimmered like breath rising off unseen giants. Dawson rode out from his canvas tent before dawn, Ghostfall beneath him, the stallion's ears sharp as knives. They were scouting new sign, tracks from a small band of mustangs that had drifted toward the cliffs near Old Woman Mesa. Nothing unusual. Nothing dangerous. Just another day for a man who lived with rope burns on his palms and a rifle slung over his saddle like an afterthought. That changed the moment he saw the smoke. A thin column curled above the distant trees, slow and stubborn. Dawson reined Ghostfall hard. Nobody lit fires out here unless they meant to be found, or unless something had gone terribly wrong. He nudged the stallion into a lope. The wind beat against his neck, bringing a strange scent, charred wool, damp earth, and something metallic. Blood, maybe. Dawson felt Ghostfall's shoulders tense beneath him. When he reached the source, he found a wagon wrecked against the rocks, canvas torn, axles snapped like busted bones. Tracks circled the site, men on horses, maybe 4 or 5. Not Mustangers. Raiders. Maybe bandits. Whoever they were sloppy enough to leave boot prints and cigarette butts. Dawson swung down and walked the perimeter, rifle in hand. He didn't see bodies. That was either a blessing or a curse. He was scanning the canyon when Ghostfall screamed. Not a simple whinny. No, a full-throated cry that Dawson had only ever heard once, the day he'd broken the stallion's trust by trying to pen him during a storm. It was a warning. A desperate one. Dawson turned just in time to see a blur of dark hair leap onto Ghostfall's back. What the hell? The figure swung up with a grace no outlaw possessed. Slim. Fast. Barefoot. The stranger yanked the reins with surprising strength. Ghostfall reared, hooves slicing the air. Hey! Dawson lunged forward, but he was too slow. The girl, because she was young, maybe 19, 20, shouted something sharp and musical, a language Dawson barely recognized. Apache. She slapped Ghostfall's flank with her palm, and the stallion bolted like a shot fired from a cannon. Dawson sprinted 2 steps before realizing he wasn't catching them on foot. Damn it! He ran for the only other horse he had, a raw-boned buckskin mare with a temper like rattlesnake weather. He grabbed her halter, threw on a saddle so fast he barely latched the cinch, and swung up. The mare surged forward, teeth bared as if she, too, hated being second choice. They tore across the valley floor, dust whipping into spirals behind them. The Apache girl rode Ghostfall without fear, legs tucked under her, body moving like she was born in his saddle. Dawson's chest stung with a mix of rage, disbelief, and, he'd admit it, admiration. You didn't just hop on Ghostfall. You earned him. But she rode him like she'd known him for years. He pushed the buckskin harder, but she couldn't keep pace. Ghostfall pulled farther ahead, the girl glancing back once, her dark eyes fierce through strands of wind-blown hair. He didn't see cruelty in them. Didn't see panic, either. He saw purpose. After a mile, the land split into a maze of sandstone ridges. The girl guided Ghostfall along a narrow trail leading toward the foothills of the San Andres. Dawson followed, cursing under his breath. He was losing them, but they weren't gone yet. The trail wound tight as a noose, and just when he thought he'd lost her completely, he found tracks, hoofprints from Ghostfall, unmistakable in their staggered, powerful line. Smaller footprints pressed beside them. Hers. She'd dismounted at some point. Dawson slowed. The air cooled under the shade of tall pinyon trees. A bird cawed overhead, sharp and warning. He pulled his rifle around. Something pressed against the back of his neck. Not a bullet. A knife. "Do not move," a quiet voice said in accented English, "or I cut your throat like a deer." Dawson swallowed, sweat beading down his spine. "Easy now," he said evenly. Ain't lookin' for trouble. You followed me. Her words were steady, controlled. You stole my horse. He is needed, she said, and he heard the tremor under the steel. Not fear. Desperation. She nudged him forward. Slowly. Dawson kept his hands raised. You speak English pretty well, he said, stalling for breath, for time. Mind telling me why you stole the best damn stallion in the territory? Because my brother is dying, she said, voice cracking like ice on a pond. And only a horse fast enough to outrun white men can save him. She pushed him into a small clearing where Ghostfall stood untethered, watching them with ears pinned and eyes bright. The girl stepped around Dawson, knife still raised. She was striking in that fierce, unpolished way desert women often were. High cheekbones, sun-darkened skin, hair long and black as creek shadows. She wore a torn buckskin dress, decorated with faded beadwork. And she was barefoot, her feet bruised from running. My name is Nazcha, she said. Dawson didn't dare look at the knife. Dawson Hale. You hunt horses. I catch 'em, he corrected. She tilted her head. And you caught this one. Earned him. Ghostfall snorted as if to agree. Nazcha hesitated, the knife wavering. I am sorry, she said softly, surprising him. But my brother, he is taken by raiders. They ride north to sell him. I must follow. I cannot without a fast horse. So you take mine. I take the only one who can run as long as the sun. Dawson exhaled. He could fight. He could push her hand away, grab the knife, force her to give Ghostfall back. But the look in her eyes, raw, exhausted, burning with a kind of devotion he understood, cut deeper than any blade. How old's your brother? He asked. 14. Dawson shook his head. Damn it all. He'd seen what raiders did to prisoners. You didn't leave a kid to that fate. He raised his hands higher. Nazcha, put the knife down. No. Then let me help. Her breath hitched. Why would a white man help us? Because some things you don't walk away from, he said quietly. Not if you want to sleep at night. She stared at him like she was trying to see if his bones were lying. After a long moment, she slowly lowered the knife. Not fully, just enough. Ghostfall stepped forward, nudging Dawson's shoulder. Nazcha blinked, startled by how gently the stallion touched the man he should have left behind. Ghostfall likes you, she whispered. Yeah, Dawson muttered, stroking the stallion's neck. He's got terrible taste. Nazca's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Dawson stepped back carefully. You're right about one thing. Ghostfall's fast. But he's more use with two riders than one. Her gaze sharpened. You will come. I'll bring him, he said. You bring the direction. She hesitated again. You would risk your life for my brother? No, Dawson said, swinging into Ghostfall's saddle. I'll risk it because you asked. Her breath caught. She looked away, face flushing with something between gratitude and shock. We ride now, she whispered. And for the first time in his life, Dawson Hale offered someone else the reins to his favorite horse. Ghostfall surged beneath them like a living storm, his muscles coiling with each stride as he carried both Dawson and Nazcha across the valley floor. Dawson rode behind her for balance, hands steady on the reins she guided, her spine rigid with tension. She kept her eyes fixed on the horizon, scanning for signs only someone raised in these lands could read. Wind snatched at her hair, whipping it across Dawson's face, carrying the scent of smoke and sage. He leaned forward a little so he wouldn't throw their weight off. We'll gain on them by nightfall, he said. Nazcha didn't answer right away. Her jaw clenched. You do not know these men. I've known enough like 'em. They have horses, guns, and no mercy. They kill for fun. They sell boys like my brother to men who work them until they die. Then we'll get to him before that happens. You say that as if the world listens to your words. Dawson huffed. Worlds never listen to me. But Ghostfall might. The stallion's ears flicked, almost offended, and he stretched into a faster lope. Nazca glanced back just enough to meet Dawson's eyes. "Why are you truly helping me? Do not lie." "Because you stole something I care for," he said. "And instead of running off to sell him, you ran toward danger." "That does not answer my question." "Maybe I don't know the whole answer yet." Nazca's brow tightened, but she didn't push. For now, that was enough. They rode north, following a sliver of trail that wound between boulders shaped by centuries of desert wind. Midday heat slammed down heavy as hammer strikes. Dawson felt sweat drip down his back, but Nazca barely seemed to notice. Apache blood, he figured. Hardy people. People who learned to survive where white folks dried up and blew away. After several hours, Nazca lifted her hand sharply. Ghostfall slowed to a trot, then a careful walk. Dawson's senses sharpened. "What is it?" She pointed to the ground. Hoofprints pressed into the dirt. Fresh ones. Deep. Heavy riders moving fast. Maybe 6 of them. And among them, the smaller prints of someone dragged or stumbling. Dawson felt his stomach clench. "Your brother?" he asked. "Yes," Nazca whispered. He studied the tracks. "They're pushin' hard. They must know someone's followin'." Nazca swallowed. "They saw the smoke too. They will think the wagon belonged to my people. They will think we come." Dawson scanned the ridge line. "We gotta keep movin'." "But we can't ride Ghostfall to death." Nazca looked sharply at him. "I would never hurt him." "I know. That's why I said, we. You're not the only one who loves this horse." Her face softened, but only slightly. They gave Ghostfall a short rest near a creek shaded by cottonwoods. Nazca knelt by the water, cupping a handful to splash her face. Dawson watched her reflection ripple across the surface, her eyes dark with exhaustion, determination glinting like obsidian. She looked young, but not fragile. Like a bowstring pulled taut. "Eat," he said, offering her a strip of jerky. She hesitated before taking it. "Thank you." "You got a plan once we catch up to these raiders?" "Yes." She took a bite. "Kill them." "Uh-huh." Dawson sat on a flat rock. "Any plan B?" She blinked. "Is that not enough?" "Oh, it's plenty," he said dryly. "Just not easy with 2 people." "3, she corrected, glancing at Ghostfall. Dawson chuckled. "Fair enough." They rode again under a reddening sky, shadows stretching long as hunger across the desert. By dusk, they caught sight of them, tiny moving shapes far along a ridge. The raiders. Dawson felt the hairs rise on his arms. Nazca sucked in a breath. "There." Ghostfall's ears pricked. He knew. "They'll make camp soon," Dawson said. "They'll think they outpaced anyone following them. That's our chance." Nazca's fingers tightened on the reins. "We will strike when the fire is high and their backs are blind." "Better to sneak in quiet first," Dawson said. "Find your brother, get him clear, then deal with the rest." She gave him a quick, sharp look. "You are a Mustanger. Why speak like a soldier?" Dawson's jaw shifted. "I wasn't always catching horses." Nazca waited. He didn't elaborate. Some stories stayed buried deeper than graves. Night came fast, the desert swallowing the last streaks of light. They dismounted and moved Ghostfall behind a row of junipers where he'd stay hidden but ready. Dawson slung his rifle, checked his revolver, then handed Nazca a small skinning knife. "I have my own," she said. "Take another," he insisted. "Never hurts." She accepted it, brushing his fingers briefly. Her touch was warm, steady. It sent a strange jolt through him. They crept toward the raiders' camp on foot. The rocks glowed faintly under moonlight, the air thick with the smell of sweat and cheap whiskey. They reached a ledge overlooking the camp. 6 men, rough-looking, sitting around a fire. Laughter rose sharp and ugly. And at the far edge of camp, tied to a pine, was a boy, thin, bruised, his head drooping. but alive. Nazca made a small sound, almost a gasp, and Dawson gently caught her wrist. Easy. Watch their patterns. One man patrolled lazily, rifle dragged behind him. 2 others argued near the horses. The rest ate and drank. Let me go, she whispered. You charge down there, they'll shoot you before you hit the dirt. I must save him. And you will, Dawson said. With a plan. She breathed hard, trying to steady herself. Finally, she nodded. Dawson scanned the area. I'll circle wide. Draw the 2 by the horses away. When they go after me, sneak in and cut your brother loose. And then run. Straight for Ghostfall. Nazca swallowed. You will follow? Count on it. She touched his arm. Not for comfort. For trust. The weight of it settled deep in Dawson's chest. He slipped away through the sagebrush. 1 boot at a time. Quiet as a mountain cat. Down by the horses, 1 raider kicked at a canteen. Damn kid keeps whining, he grumbled. Then gag I'm, the other said. Ain't nobody out here gonna hear him. Dawson broke a twig on purpose. The raiders froze. Then they saw a tall shadow moving between the trees. There, one shouted. Someone's following us. Both ran toward the sound, toward Dawson. Good. Nazca moved like smoke. She darted down the slope, staying low, eyes fixed on her brother. The boy looked up weakly as she reached him. Nazca, he rasped. Sure. Her knife sliced the rope. We are leaving. The boy swayed, almost collapsing. Nazca threw his arm over her shoulder, muscles trembling under the weight. We must go. Now. But she'd forgotten one thing. The man on patrol hadn't followed the others. He stepped from behind the pine, gun raised, eyes narrowing at the sight of her. Well, looky here, he growled. Didn't think we had company. Nazca shielded her brother with her body. The raider cocked his revolver. And then a rifle cracked from the ridge. The man dropped instantly. Dawson had fired. Go! He shouted from the darkness. Run! Nazca gripped her brother and bolted into the trees. The camp erupted in chaos behind her. Men shouting, flames hissing as boots kicked dirt, bullets slicing the air. Dawson's silhouette flashed as he dove behind a boulder, returning fire. And Ghostfall, hearing it all, screamed into the night. Ghostfall's scream cut through the night like a blade, sharp enough to shiver the pines. Nazca half-dragged, half-carried her brother toward the junipers where they'd left the stallion. The boy stumbled, breath rasping, but he clung to her with a fear that drove him forward. Behind them the gunfire cracked louder, echoing off the rock walls. Dawson was buying them time with every bullet he sent back at the raiders. Just a little more, Nazca whispered, her voice breaking. Hold on, Kayleigh. Please. Kayleigh nodded weakly, eyes glassy with exhaustion. I knew you'd come, he muttered. I always come for you. When they reached Ghostfall, the stallion danced nervously, stomping the ground as if urging them to hurry. Nazca helped her brother up first, boosting him until he was slumped over the saddle. His fingers tangled weakly in the horse's mane. She took a breath, bracing to mount behind him, when a shadow lunged out of the dark. A raider. He grabbed her arm, yanking her back so hard she felt her shoulder wrench. She cried out, twisting, but he slammed her against a tree, his breath sour with whiskey. Thought you could steal from us, Apache girl, he snarled. Nazca clawed at his face, but he was bigger, heavier. He slammed her back again. Pain shot down her spine. Then a deeper voice cut the dark. Let her go. Dawson. He emerged from the sagebrush like some dust-covered phantom, empty rifle in one hand, blood on his cheek that wasn't his. His hat hung half-torn by a lucky bullet. His eyes burned with the kind of fury that made seasoned cowboys take a step back. The raider tightened his grip on Nazca. Or what? Dawson dropped the empty rifle, then drew his revolver so fast the man barely registered the movement. Bang! The raider slumped, sliding down the tree, hand falling open. Nazca stumbled away from him, chest heaving. Dawson caught her before she fell. "You hurt?" he asked, voice low but wild with worry. She shook her head, though her ribs screamed otherwise. "I can still ride." Dawson nodded once. "No time for more." A shout rose from the ridge. 3 raiders left and closing in fast. Dawson hoisted her onto Ghostfall behind her brother. Then he slapped the stallion's flank hard, harder than he ever had. "Go!" Ghostfall launched forward like lightning splitting a black sky. Nazca twisted in the saddle, reaching out. "Dawson!" But he was already running to the buckskin mare tied back in the shadows. He cut her loose in 2 quick strokes and swung up. The mare lunged after Ghostfall, hooves pounding the earth. For a few long breaths, all Nazca could hear was wind. Her brother gasped softly in front of her. She held him tight, keeping him stable against Ghostfall's wild sprint. The horse flew across the dark desert like he knew the stakes, mane whipping her face. Then gunshots rang out again, and this time she knew they weren't aimed at her. Dawson fired back from the buckskin, keeping pace as best he could. He rode with one hand, reloading with the other, every movement smooth and practiced. Not a mustanger now. Something else. Something harder. One raider's horse fell. Another shouted curses swallowed by the wind. Nazca's heart hammered. Not with fear. With something she didn't have a name for. Something tied up in the man riding behind them, fighting for a boy he'd never met and a girl who'd stolen his horse. The chase stretched on until the gunfire faded. The raiders fell behind, their horses exhausted, their courage thinner than their whiskey courage had promised. At last Dawson rode up beside them, breath harsh, shirt torn at the shoulder. "They gave up," he said. Ghostfall slowed, then stopped entirely. Nazca climbed down, helping her brother slide off. Kayle collapsed to his knees, trembling. Dawson dismounted too, stumbling slightly. Nazca rushed to him without thinking. "You are hurt," she said, touching the blood on his cheek. He laughed softly. "Missed the best part, ain't mine." Relief trembled through her legs. She didn't show it. They moved into the shelter of a narrow canyon wall. A small stream trickled nearby, sweet mercy from the land itself. Dawson built a small fire, low flame, just enough warmth. Nazca cleaned her brother's cuts, checking for broken bones. Dawson watched, admiring the gentle way she coaxed Kayle to drink water. "You're good with him," he murmured. "I raised him after our father died," she said. "But I am not always kind." "No," Dawson said quietly. "You're always brave." Nazca looked up, surprised by the softness in his voice. After Kayle fell asleep against the saddle blanket, Nazca and Dawson sat a little distance away, Ghostfall grazing nearby. The night wrapped around them, calm, warm, full of quiet gratitude. Nazca broke the silence first. "You risked yourself for us. Twice. Couldn't let a kid get hauled off by animals like that. That is reason, not truth." Dawson sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Truth is, when you rode off on Ghostfall, I was mad as hell. But then I saw your face out there. Saw what you were fightin' for. And I figured, maybe some things matter more than a man's pride. Or even his favorite horse." Nazca's lips quirked. "You love him very much." "Yeah," Dawson said. "But I think you got him beat by a mile." Her breath caught. She hadn't expected that. "Why?" He met her eyes. "Because not many people would steal a stallion from a stranger, knowing they might die doing it, just to save their brother." Nazca lowered her gaze, heart pounding harder than the ride itself. "Among my people, that is normal." "Well," Dawson muttered, brushing her hand with his thumb, "among mine, that's hero work." She looked at his hand, rough, warm, steady against hers. She didn't pull away. "You will return to your land after this?" she asked softly. "Maybe." He paused. "You want me to?" Her eyes lifted, dark and luminous in the firelight. "I do not know. I have never met a man like you. Feel like I could say the same." Ghostfall wandered behind them, nudging Dawson's shoulder as if demanding attention. The Mustanger smiled and scratched the stallion's jaw. "He likes you too much," Nazca murmured. "Or maybe he's jealous," Dawson joked. She laughed, a small sound, but real. The first he'd heard from her. It felt like sunlight after a storm. Dawson's expression softened. "What happens tomorrow?" "I take my brother home," she said. "To my people. They will hide him. They will move if needed." "And you?" She hesitated. "I do not know." Then she added, almost shyly, "Do you wish me to stay?" Dawson moved a little closer. "I wish a lot of things." The fire crackled. The desert breathed. Kayleigh slept peacefully for the first time in days. Nazca's voice dropped to a whisper. "When I stole your horse, I thought you would kill me." "I almost did," Dawson admitted with a crooked smile. "Then you looked back at me with those fire eyes and I knew I didn't stand a chance." She looked at him fully now, eyes bright. "And now?" "Now," he said, touching her cheek gently, "I'm glad you stole him." Nazca leaned into his hand, her breath warm against his wrist. "And I am glad you followed." He kissed her, slow, careful, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he moved too fast. She returned it softly, fingers brushing his jaw, the desert wind weaving around them like a blessing. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Tomorrow will be hard," she said. "Yeah," he whispered. "But tonight ain't." Ghostfall snorted approvingly. And under the quiet desert stars, with danger behind them and dawn still far away, the Mustanger and the Apache girl found something neither had expected. Something worth stealing, worth chasing, worth keeping. Together.